Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my wife's family a large portion of her life insurance money? I lost my wife unexpectedly, and it has been one of the most difficult times in my life. She left me with $200,000 in life insurance, and I used $20,000 of it to cover the funeral expenses. My wife's family is demanding a large portion of the remaining life insurance money. Her parents want to use it to rebuild their home in Florida that was destroyed in a recent hurricane. The thing is, they didn't have insurance, and I don't think it's fair for me to cover their losses with the money that my wife left me. My wife's brother also wants a portion of the money to pay for his college tuition. While I sympathize with his situation, I don't think it's my responsibility to fund his education. My wife left this money to me for a reason, and it's up to me to decide how to use it. When I told my wife's family that I couldn't give them the money they were asking for, they accused me of being selfish and not caring about their situation. They said that my wife would have wanted them to have the money and that I was going against her wishes. I feel terrible for my wife's family, but I also have my own financial responsibilities. I have bills to pay, and I want to make sure that I can take care of myself in the future. I don't want to put myself in a difficult financial situation by giving away a large portion of the life insurance money. This is an opportunity for me to pay off my debts and buy the dream home me and my wife always wanted. Maybe I am being selfish, but I feel like I am not in the wrong. Me and my wife never really discussed what to do with life insurance money, other than the occasional joke of buying the dream home we want or a starter one. I miss her so terribly. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my wife's family a large portion of her life insurance money? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Death and money can bring out the worst in people. I'm sorry for your loss. I can't say it better than this. Not the a-hole. It's selfish of them to put you through this. Perfect add-on. Look, if your wife wanted her parents and brother money, she would have left them money. She did not, because she wanted you to have it. You paid for a whole funeral. None of them did. Sorry for your loss. But this is your money. Shame on them trying to guilt you. Also, everyone in Florida knows to have homeowners insurance. That is their fault. Not the a-hole. She left you with the money, not them. If she wanted them to have some of it, she should have put it in a will or agreement of some sort to divide the money amongst her chosen parties. Yes, every life insurance policy I've ever had multiple places for beneficiaries, with what percentage you want to go to each party. 1. If you live in Florida and don't have a hurricane insurance, you're not smart. 2. It is absolutely not your responsibility to fund your brother's education. 3. What your wife would or would not have wanted is irrelevant unless there's a will involved. Otherwise, you knew her best, and them using her memory to guilt trip you is freaking disgusting. I would be livid. 4. It's your money to do whatever you want to do with it. Period. You do what you need to do to make your life easier or better while you grieve your wife however you need to. If needed, block contact to the rest of them until they can mind their own financial business. I am so sorry for your loss. I'm married, and I can't even imagine. There aren't words. It's absolutely disgusting to me that her family and yours are acting like nothing better than vultures in the wake of your loss, when they should be supporting you. Utterly reprehensible and selfish. Not a-hole by any stretch of the imagination. 2.5. It was not your late wife's responsibility to fund her brother's education either. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not sharing my inheritance with my sister since she chose to be adopted? I, 30 male, lost my mom when I was 5. Despite being so young, I had a very vivid and treasured memories of my mom and did not take to my dad dating a year after her death well. My dad recognized that he knew this would be hard for me, but said that as the parent/adult he knew what was best. Even it didn't seem that way at first, and that it thanked me in the long run. Not long after that, he married my stepmom Lucy, and when I began to act out over it, my dad said that parenting alone was hard, and that my sister Jessica, 28 female, needed a mom. My dad even got my maternal grandparents to tell me that everything would be fine, and how I needed to be a good boy. That was enough to get me to behave during the wedding, but once Lucy moved in and started redecorating, I started acting out again. My dad had had enough, and just started punishing me whenever I acted out or made Lucy upset, as well as used the "Jessica isn't acting out like this" line. And to be honest, Jessica was easily pleased, and wasn't alive long enough to have the same attachment to our mom as I did. It really upset me when Jessica started calling Lucy Mom, And it really ticked me off when Lucy started referring to me as her son, though I always corrected it when she tried that around me. It got worse when I was 8 and Lucy had her own kids, because then my dad and her started pushing for adoption. Jessica obviously had no problems with it, but I refused. My dad had my maternal grandparents come in again and tell me that adoption wouldn't be that bad, but I still refused. Lucy and my dad pushed for the adoption anyway, but thankfully the judge listened to my feelings in private room and denied it. After that, therapy started, but it didn't last, so they also tried the, since you don't want to be a part of this family, you don't get X or you can't come do Y. But I was too stubborn for that method to work on me. The only one who I felt was on my side was my paternal aunt, who kept sticking up for me whenever she'd see what Lucy and my dad were trying to do. So when I turned 18, I went straight to her. It was when I became a legal adult that my maternal grandparents confessed that they were never okay with the situation. But my dad threatened to keep me and my sister away if they didn't show support. I was furious. So furious that I had my surname legally changed to my mom's maiden name, as I wanted nothing to do with my dad. I'd only ever really talked to my paternal aunt. Fast forward to now, and my grandma has passed away while grandpa died in 2020. And according to their will, only their legal grandchildren is to split a $250,000 inheritance. And since Jessica is legally Lucy's daughter now, all she got was a framed photo of my mom and a letter. Jessica doesn't think it's fair and thinks I should share. But I told her to get money from her legal grandparents. Now, even my aunt thinks I'm being a bit harsh. So, am I the a-hole? Edited to Ed, because someone asked. It had been 2 years since the last time she'd spoken to either of my grandparents, while she frequently called and interacted with Lucy's parents. Jessica was never close to my mom's side of the family because she'd rather spend time with Lucy's family and or didn't want to hurt their feelings. When Lucy moved in, she and my dad took down all of my mom's pictures and got rid of her things. I wasn't even allowed to keep any pictures in my room, and I would catch heat if I tried to celebrate my mom's birthday, mourn on the anniversary for death, and get punished if I didn't celebrate Mother's Day the way Lucy wanted me to. So yeah, she wasn't the saint of a woman who stepped in when my mom couldn't to me. I don't blame Jessica for choosing to be adopted now. I'm angry at her belief that she should get any money from my grandparents, despite never showing an interest in having a relationship with them once she was 18 plus. They reached out numerous times, but she never bothered, yet has the belief that she's entitled to their money? That is what ticked me off. My mom had a sister who also had kids. I'm not getting the full $250,000. No, I don't expect anyone from Lucy's side to leave me anything, nor would I demand Jessica to share. It would be completely hypocritical. Not the a-hole. Interesting how she only wants to be family now money is involved. She hadn't even spoken to them in 2 years. Given her age at her adoption, and how many years passed prior to her grandparents' death, and the explicit wording of legal grandchildren, I have no doubt that this was crafted after she was adopted, and was very specifically worded as such. Her grandparents knew what they were doing, and where they wanted the money to go. The last time the will was updated/altered was back in 2017. Will you be in Lucy's family's will? If not, will your sister give you part of her portion? Somehow, I think the answer to both questions is no. She can wait till she gets her own inheritance. Not the a-hole. I don't expect to be, nor will I raise a fuss if I'm not. It's honestly disgustingly hypocritical to me. I honestly doubt that Jessica would share anything that she inherits from Lucy's family with me. So there's your answer. Do you expect to inherit from your father or paternal grandparents? Nope. I said goodbye to all that when I went no contact and changed my surname. Am I the a-hole for telling my half-sister she was never entitled to anything my dad owned? My dad died when I was 6. He wrote out a will where he left instructions of what he wanted me to have after he was gone. A keychain my grandparents bought him that he had for more than 20 years. His dog tags from his time in the military. This bracelet that he got when he became my dad. A little bobblehead toy for his brother who died in the military, a lighter that has been passed down through multiple generations of his family, and an old-school pocket watch also handed down through the family. My mom remarried after Dad died. My half-sister is now 8 and my half-brother is 5. My mom, however, decided she was not going to honor my dad's wishes. I have his dog tags, but she gave my half-sister the keychain, and she wants to give my half-brother the lighter and a pocket watch. I begged Mom not to. But my half-sister has the keychain now and she was so happy. I told her I didn't like that she had it, and I would like it back because it was my dad's. She ignored me and said we shared. And she was so happy I shared part of my dad with her. I told her that wasn't my choice. Mom told me I had a nasty attitude about it, and the last couple of years have been intense. My half-sister keeps showing off the keychain and talking proudly about how I shared it with her. Then she lost it once, and I told my mom she was evil for giving it away, when it was so easily lost by my half-sister. My half-sister was really annoying last week and kept bringing up the keychain and the fact it was my dad's and I share it with her. I told her I didn't. She told me of course I did, because she has it. I told her I never shared it, that I never would have shared it with her nor my half-brother, because they are not my dad's kids, and he would not have wanted them to have it. She told me it should be hers because we're sisters. I got so mad. I told her she was never entitled to anything my dad owned, and having that didn't mean I wanted to be her sister, and that mom was an a-hole for giving it to her. She started crying and said we're sisters, and we should share stuff like that, and I shared my dad with her. Mom was furious with me and called me a bully, and I told her I didn't care. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not a-hole at all. Can you talk to your paternal grandparents? If this was legit in a will, then someone should get you a freaking lawyer. They both have Alzheimer's, so they can't help me. Do you live near a law school? Most have clinics for people with low incomes. Realistically, you probably can't do a lot till you're an adult, unless they help you get emancipated, but it doesn't hurt to get a consult. Given your mother's theft and a general breakdown of your relationship with her, have you talked to your school counselors? Some are awful, but some may actually be able to point you to resources to assist you with your rights. I have not. Our school counselor is way too deep into the religious stuff. It always makes talking to her awkward and not very useful. I don't know about law schools. I don't think so. Not the a-hole. Steal your stuff back from your siblings and send all your dad's things to a member of your dad's family for safekeeping until you move out. Make sure you set things up with that relative ahead of time and that they understand to keep it a secret. If you can't do a family member, use a friend. If your mom or half-siblings accuse you of stealing from them, deny it and say they must have lost it again. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to help pay for my child's university fees? It's been one hell of a month, so some things I say might not make sense. I'm 40 male. Recently found out that I have a child who we'll call Jane, 18 female. I wasn't convinced at first, but everything checks out. When she came to me, she told me that she just wanted to get to know her father. I wasn't really interested in a relationship, but felt it would be cruel and unnecessary to deny her this. We talked for a while, and I didn't really say much of it, but it was interesting. So after we talked for a while, I asked about her mother Grace, 40 female, and she gives me her number. I really didn't want to have to call her, but I needed answers. So Grace and I decided to meet up at a local coffee shop. We have some small talk for a while before I ask her why she never told me. Silence. So I ask again. More silence. I asked a third time and she told me that she just didn't want anything to do with me and wanted to get back at me. I point out that all she did deprived the child of a father, and she agrees. I then ask her when did she tell Jane, and she says at age 12. So I get confused, and I'm wondering why she only contacts me now. So I ask her why. Grace says that she was angry that I wasn't present in her life. We talk some more about life before we say goodbye and go our separate ways. I don't ask Jane why she didn't call sooner because she was a hurting teen and that's life. So Jane and I spent the next week bonding. Then she sits down and asks to talk. I say sure and sit down. She then goes on to explain about how difficult her life was living in a single-parent household and how money was always tight. Long story short, she asks me to pay for her university fees. Now, I am well off enough to pay for it without struggle. So I ask to see her grades, and to be truly honest, it's meh. Not bad, but nothing to give a second look. I tell her that I'll think about it, and she says thank you. So here's where I might be the a-hole. I don't want to pay for the fees. Because in reality, she is just a stranger with my DNA, and I feel like Jane might just be using me. I mean, she has had 6 years to form a relationship with me, and is only doing now that she needs something. I just want to wash my hands clean off her and Grace, and move on with my life. I don't want Jane to think I'm her financial lifeline or anything like that. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Added to add some stuff because of the comments. 1. I did a DNA test. It was what she wanted me to do to prove herself. 2. Child support laws are different in my country in the sense that A. You can't claim and claim child support if you had the option to claim it. B. Child support can't be settled after 18 unless the father knowingly disappeared, and that would take months to process, let alone prove. 3. Jane had the ability to contact me. I don't know how much influence her mother had on her choice, but I do know that I was a dial away. Not the a-hole, but neither is Jane. Grace is a tremendous a-hole to both of you. I do encourage you to seriously consider contributing to Jane's university expenses. Not to say you should or should not contribute, just seriously and honestly consider it. Think about her position, no father in her life, and a mother who won't answer any questions she has for the first 12 years. Then who knows what context Grace gave her when she finally did tell her. I'll bet she never said, "I never told your father about you because I wanted to spite him, and I didn't care what effect that had on your childhood," despite that being the truth. Instead, she undoubtedly made you into the bad guy. Jane had no way of knowing better, and you should be sympathetic to that. I don't think you're the a-hole no matter what you decide. Just don't do anything to spite Jane. She's had enough of that already. There is no reason Opie should need to feel sympathetic or be an a-hole for not being sympathetic here. Jane, while yes, is his bio daughter, is really a stranger and only really reaching out for cash. No a-holes here. She's a kid who just met her dad. University is the biggest thing on her mind, and she says dad has funds. So why not ask? I wouldn't if I was her, but I get it. And you're not the a-hole for thinking, this is weird. If it was a year or two from now after y'all have caught up, and so formed a bond, maybe. It also sucks as you didn't get a shot, but may have just gained a daughter. If it was me, I would have said let's reset and not have this convo now as we are strangers. Let's become familiar, and we can talk way down the road on this topic. But yeah, rock and a hard place for sure. Am I the a-hole for calling out a friend's divorce because she wouldn't leave my husband alone? My husband works with a girl named Lucy, who also happens to be part of our social circle. I wouldn't say she's close to us, but she's a close friend of a friend, so we'll see her once in a while when there are group outings. She also works with my husband, John, and I guess because we also see her outside of work, she thinks she's super close to my husband. I'm not a super jealous type, but I drew a line when my husband himself voiced discomfort at Lucy's behavior. She likes to make jokes about being his work wife, try and push me out of conversations with my husband like, "You weren't at the office, so you wouldn't understand," and has tried to initiate one-on-one hangouts with my husband. John has turned her down and has also explicitly told her that she was making him feel uncomfortable and to stop. She's just laughed and brushed it off and still continues. He hasn't brought it up to work yet because she's a single mom and he didn't want to get her in trouble. Her advances have mostly been just annoying, but it recently escalated, which brings us to the issue. At a barbecue, my husband was sitting around a fire pit with his friends. I got up to get food, and I came back right as Lucy came and sat down on my husband's lap while joking, "Your work wife can entertain you while your normal wife is busy." This was the first time she made a physical advance, and my husband immediately jumped up and pushed her off. She laughed and told him to stop being so sensitive, and I could tell it embarrassed my husband. It was at this point that I told her, maybe if you had focused more on being a real wife instead of a work wife, you wouldn't be divorced. Lucy immediately left the party after that, and I found out from our friend that she cried in her car. She since skipped and avoided all events where I'm there with my husband, which has caused a strain with our mutual friend. Most of our other friends were on my side, but some said I was too harsh and that Lucy was just kidding around. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. Lucy is trying to steal your husband. Thankfully, he is a good guy and isn't having it. Time for him to go to HR. There's a non-zero chance that she'll go first and report him for harassment. Good luck. He needs to file that yesterday. He should expect fallout for not addressing this more seriously. Work friends turn on each other constantly. Not a-hole. Lucy crossed a big line and needed to be put in her place publicly. It's probably the only way you and your husband could get her to stop. bold and brazen, while trying to cloak it as a joke. Wow. Also, all of the kinder and subtler ways were tried and dismissed. Was it harsh? Maybe. Necessary? Definitely. Not a-hole. Not the a-hole. Lucy is lucky that she just felt your wrath, rather than your husband going to HR like he should. I understand completely why your husband doesn't want to. There are probably two reasons. One, he really doesn't want her to get in trouble. And two, it's embarrassing for a man to say they are being harassed. You should probably tell your husband that he needs to go to HR about it. She shouldn't lose her job over one instance, and she'll hopefully learn a very valuable lesson. Harassment at the workplace isn't a game. He needs to go to HR and get the facts on record before she goes and tries to twist the story. Unfortunately, he might need to start a resume as well, because HR can see it as who is the bigger liability. Hopefully his job performance is better than a single mom trying to steal someone else's husband and keeping him as in the company's better interest. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting people at our pool? My fiancé and I own a house with a pool in the backyard. His brother Jay had asked the day before if him and his family, wife plus 3 kids, could come over on Sunday to swim after one of the kids' sport games, which was at a park close by to us. Now, fiancé and I own a business together that requires working from home on Sundays. Everyone that we know is aware of this, including his brother. I voiced my opinion that I felt it was weird for people to be at our place while we were working in the basement. But fiancé assured me that it would just be chill. He said it's normal for a family to use people's pool even if they weren't home. So, we let them come thinking that they would swim for maybe an hour then leave. But it wasn't just them. Fiancé's parents also came. We figured they would. But the kicker is that Jay also invited 2 of his friends plus their partners and their kids as well. We do know these people, but both fiancé and I were not aware of this beforehand. So now it's a full-on party in our backyard while we are working in the basement. I became very annoyed that they did not only invite themselves, but some of their friends as well. It made me feel guilty that I couldn't be in my own backyard to host people because I was working. It also felt like they were just using the house and didn't really care about seeing us, the homeowners. Not to mention, the house was a complete mess. We had a busy Friday and Saturday, and I didn't bother cleaning much before because I figured it would just be Jay's family. Everyone was here from 1 p.m. till 7 p.m. We finished work around 3 p.m., at which time, fiancé put on his swim trunks to join them outside. I got in a pretty bitter mood from it all and stayed inside. I didn't even say hello to anyone because I figured they weren't even here to see me, just my pool. I did some laundry and some cleaning up, and I did end up seeing a few people who were coming inside to use the washrooms. I said hi and tried to make some small talk, but I really wasn't happy. Fiancé came in and said that I was creating an awkward/unwelcoming atmosphere by not being outside. I told him I never planned to have a party today, so I was just carrying on doing what I originally had planned, which was laundry and cleaning. Fiancé keeps saying that I was rude for not joining them outside after work. He also says things like the pool is meant to be used and that it's family time. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, answering those who have asked, we bought this house together completely 50-50. Fiancé keeps saying that I was rude for not joining them outside after work. Not the a-hole. You're not obliged to host a party you didn't want with people you didn't invite. Agreed. She also has a fiancé problem. Just sounds like the fiancé is more laid back about friends and family using the pool than OP is. OP was perfectly capable of asking them to leave after an hour or so and could easily have said they needed a peace and quiet to work. Waiting until it's gone on a while then sulking/cold shouldering everyone is childish. Whether the family brought a couple extra people unannounced or not. Not that that isn't a bit rude itself. The fiancé is more laid back about friends and family using the pool than OP. Of course he is. It's his side of the family. It's very usual to have an agreement that each spouse deals with their own side of the family, to prevent some "how dare you say that" comments. Wanna bet that neither the fiancé nor his brother and his extended uninvited guests would be amenable to OP going out there and say, "People, that's enough. I have work to do." This is a fiancé problem, not a brother-in-law problem. Not the a-hole. This is the most concise statement that sums up the real issue. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a problem, just a pretty severe misalignment when it comes to the pool slash having guests over slash boundaries. Sounds like OP's fiance likes having guests over and doesn't mind people using their pool whenever. And it is his pool too. He does get a say in who uses it and when. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not contributing to my boyfriend's home renovations? My boyfriend and I, both in our 30s, have been together for almost 2 years. Each make decent money, though he makes almost twice my income, and plan to marry and have kids in a year. Less than a year into dating, I agreed to move into his house, which he owned for several years at that point. Before officially moving in, all he requested to me was to pay 40% of the monthly mortgage and utilities payment and to take turns buying groceries. I gladly agreed and have consistently done that. I've also been paying for everyday necessities, such as toilet paper, soap, paper towels, etc. And we use my car 90% of the time because he's pointed out that my car is more gas efficient. I always pay for gas too. I estimate these extra monthly costs to be around $400 to $500 and never complain. Since the beginning of our relationship, he shared his home renovation plan starting with the bathrooms, which he estimates to cost at least $10,000. I like the idea because the improvements would be nice to have. Floor-to-ceiling marble, glass shower doors, and new windows to add natural light. There are currently no issues with the bathrooms, but he insists we should get it done before we have kids, and would like me to contribute. I've always been upfront about my hesitation to contribute large amounts to a home I don't own because we aren't married yet, and I'm not on the deed. I also don't want to be like his ex who contributed to similar expenses, and obviously that didn't work out. I told him it would give me comfort in knowing I contribute large amounts to something I also own, and also shared my insecurity about ending up like his ex, which he thinks is ridiculous because nothing's guaranteed anyway. We could marry and divorce. He recently had other improvements made to the house which costed about $10,000. I didn't help pay or request these things, but I have made previous comments about how these upgrades would be nice to have eventually. Lately, it seems my boyfriend has been building resentment towards me for not contributing more, because he's made comments that my monthly mortgage contribution doesn't help a lot and that it feels like he will always be alone in this. I've told him I have no issues with contributing more once I'm on the deed. Edit. I wanted to provide a little clarification / extra info in response to some of the comments. The 40% I pays towards the mortgage and utility bills, and by his calculations, the total for that is $800. That, plus the extra $400 to $500 I spend, brings my monthly contribution to about $1,200 to $1,300. According to a quick Google search, the average cost of a one-bedroom apartment in my city is about $1,600. We're both aware that I pay less than the average, and I've expressed my gratitude for not having to pay that much anymore. I rented a one-bedroom apartment before moving in and have done this for years. Also aware that utilities like electricity and gas can fluctuate, so I'm also grateful to pay a fixed amount towards that every month. Although we mostly use my car and I always pay for gas and the monthly city parking, he is very experienced and handy with cars, and has done my oil changes, so I have not had to bring my car in for maintenance at a shop. Not a-hole. Don't pay for work on a house you have no legal claim to. Quite honestly, you need to take a step back from paying the amount you do, in my opinion. I could see covering / splitting utilities and groceries, but why are you paying any amount of money to a mortgage you're not on? And in addition to that, you're the one putting all those miles on your car. And if he doesn't contribute to gas, I'm assuming he doesn't contribute to maintenance either. And you're not even the first partner he's pulled this crap with? I don't know, bestie. The red flags are starting to pile up. She's paying it for rent. Why should she live there rent-free? But the renovations? Yeah, she definitely shouldn't pay for those. Not a-hole. He basically made a rental agreement with you, but expects you to contribute like you're an owner. If he feels like he'll always be alone in this, then he should formalize your partnership. This is it. Does that mean he never plans to marry? Never plans to co-own assets, including a house? Because that's a flag of a certain color flapping in the breeze there. Not a-hole. Don't contribute to something you don't own without more agreement. If he raises the rent, discuss the gas and other costs. As far as the house goes, you're a tenant. As partners though, It's time for a serious discussion about plans and timelines and feelings, especially if you're thinking about kids in a year or so. I would only contribute to the renovations if there was a signed notarized note detailing the monies given with a stipulation that the funds would be returned in the event the relationship doesn't work out. He could just be a man trying to build a home and life for you both, but he makes twice your income, expects 40% of mortgage for rent, and uses your car 90% of the time. That's an uneven split of costs. This smells like the guy's dangling the carrots of marriage and family to primp his home that you have no ownership claim to. Not the a-hole. You are right to think twice. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife's friend she was wrong to leave her alone? Yesterday, I had plans to take my son to a water park. I asked my friend's wife, who is good friends with my wife, to stay with her for the day. She can't really be alone right now because of her health. All of these plans were made in advance. When I got home, my wife was alone with our baby, and her friend was not there. I contacted a friend who said that my wife cussed her out and told her to get out of her home and her life. I understand that's a lot to put up with, but she didn't even call to tell me she was leaving her alone. She told me she didn't call me because my wife is a grown woman and everyone needs to stop coddling her. I said that wasn't her decision, and I felt betrayed by what she did. She called me a disaster whose life is falling apart, and that instead of passing judgment on her, I should shut up and listen for once. I didn't mean to offend her. I was just shocked by what she did. But her extreme response makes me think I did something wrong. Was I an a-hole for judging her actions? You're the a-hole. If your wife can't be left alone, you need to hire a caretaker, not pawn her health off on friends. Her friend has no obligation to be mistreated by your wife, especially when you're off having a fun day at the water park. You're stressed, and you and your wife are taking it out on someone who tried to do you guys a favor. This PPD is no joke. You put yourself first and took it out on her friend. You need to prioritize her. OMG, read his prior post. He got his ex knocked up. Don't let him say it's PPD. It's husband making bad decisions depression. Read the whole post history. They're separated because she keeps talking to her racist father, keeps inviting him to the dinner OP's cooking, and begging OP to stay. Yes, OP messed up, but let's not act like this dumpster fire of a marriage is just on him. You left her while she's suffering. So, I've stayed with her for months after my initial request for a divorce because she said she needed me. I almost lost my job because of her. I almost lost my son. She has alienated herself from almost all of our friends and is trying to prevent me from maintaining contact with them. Where is the line? When does it stop? I love the person she used to be, that I thought she was. But when does it end? Is this my life now? Have you taken her to see a doctor to put her on meds? Please take the baby from her and hire a caretaker for her until she is better. Continue on with your divorce, but know you have to pay child support. Right now, sir, for the friend incident, you're the a-hole. You need to listen to the friend. Good luck, dude. She wouldn't return after the first appointment, nor will she take the medication that was prescribed. I cannot afford to hire a caretaker for her, especially since she almost got me fired by calling my boss and telling him if she died, it would be his fault when I had to go into the office for a mandatory 1-hour meeting. If something like that is truly happening, then you need to call the police or a mental health facility to get your wife the help she desperately needs. At this point, she is a danger to herself and to your baby. Money be damned, would you rather be in debt from getting your wife help? Or in debt from 1 or possibly 2 funerals because you didn't take this seriously? Because that is the route you are risking right now. And putting that on your friend is absolutely disgusting and out-of-line behavior. That is an out-of-line request. That is not your friend's job to deal with that, and you should never have put that on them.